So in your Canvas page, so we are in the Plus Lab class, right? So your Plus Lab, if you go to announcements, I just sent you an announcement right now. It's called Week 3 Molecular Models Worksheet. Go ahead and open up that announcement, and there's a Word document. So you're going to need to open and download, or download and open that Word document. We're going to be using that today. So for your report today, we're going to be working not off of the lab manual. So if you're using your lab manual, close it up, put it away. We're using the PDF version of the instructions, part A and B, that are on Canvas. They should have been on Canvas in modules. Does everybody have that? Okay, if you don't, go ahead and open it up, because we're going to be working through it together today. So does everybody have that Word document open, and everybody have your part A? Whoops. Okay, so here is the experiment PDF you should have open. And then this is the Word document I'd like you to also have open. So I created this for you based on how I feel like the other lab classes went. I feel like it was a little bit confusing, like what you're supposed to be turning in, what you're supposed to be providing. So we're going to be actually using this worksheet, and this is going to be what you turn in. So put your name, obviously, in your lab section, which this is your lab section. And then I'll show you how to use this worksheet as we go through. We're going to be cut and pasting a lot today. So does everybody have this open? If you don't, can you let me know that you need another second? Okay. The other thing I want you to open while we're waiting for other people is on Canvas, there was another document called TRO, chapter something, chapter, I don't know what chapter it is, but it's called TRO. That also is, so on your regular general chemistry lab course, so within the modules. So modules is where you downloaded all of your week 3 stuff, right? So you've got all the stuff week 1, week 2. This is where your lab instructions were. There's this document here, TRO chapter 11, Vesper theory. We're going to be using this pretty extensively in the first part, part A. So I'd like you to have that open. This is actually my favorite representation of Vesper theory. I'm really glad that they gave you this author, TRO. It's my favorite general chemistry textbook. It's actually that one right there. This table is just so useful, and I'll show you guys how to use it and how you like it. It presents the best visualization of Vesper theory that I feel like I've ever seen, and is the best I like for teaching. So those are the things you're going to want to have open right now on your computer. Is this Word document that we're going to be working through, this TRO chapter 11, whatever, the Vesper theory, and this is page 5 in that PDF, so you want to have that open. And also, I don't have Word opens in Mac Pages. Is Pages like you can edit it? You just need it to open in a editable. If Pages is like word processing, like you don't want a PDF because we're going to actually type on this. I can edit. Okay, that's fine. As long as you can edit, like edit fully, as in like, so these are tables I put in here as like placeholders. We're going to be putting pictures in there, not words. So as long as you can fully edit this, whatever software you use, I don't actually care, but it has to be a word processing document. Okay. So here's your directions for the lab. And today we're going to be working through it kind of a little bit more tutorial style rather than doing breakout rooms. And we're also, I'm also going to give you time to work on it independently, but we're going to stay all as a class today so we can help each other and use the cameras. So first, before we get going, does everybody have their model kits? And I'm going to need everybody to have their cameras on, because as we start building, I'm going to want you to show me your models as we're building them. Sorry, I know everybody hates camera on, but this lab is like really super hands-on. So everybody has them, right? If you do not have your model kit, can you let me know? Okay. Do you have anything like, do you have toothpicks? Do you have a bunch of pencils? You're going to need something. Otherwise, you just cannot do the lab today. So there are some, my model kits don't do some of the geometries. So I've got like a piece of clay and toothpicks I'm going to be using. You can also use candy and toothpicks. Like I said, if you have like an excess amount of like pencils and maybe like clay or something or Play-Doh or you could even try to use that, but you're going to need to use something. Otherwise, today is going to be really confusing. Okay, everybody. So everybody has something to work with, right? Hopefully. Okay. If not, you'll have to, before you turn this in, you'll have to do that because turning in the photos of your actual models is part of the assignment. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So in your directions here, in your pre-lab for all of these molecules, so there's 10 and then an 11 bonus one. For all of your molecules, you should have had valence electrons, Lewis structures, and identified the electron groups for each one of these. So we're going to work through a couple of these. Together. So it's kind of repeating what you did in your pre-lab, but to build a three-dimensional model, you have to start from this starting point, right? So everybody should have also a piece of paper. If you do a pen tablet like me, that's fine, but you need to actually be following along with pen and paper, and then we're going to build things. So what you should have done in your pre-lab is do our valence electrons, Lewis structure, and electron group for these. So on my paper, I have from my pre-lab, I have ASCl3, right? And I've identified the valence electron. So I'm going to pull open my periodic table. Okay, so how many valence electrons does arsenic have? You guys can either say it in your mic or you can type it in the chat.
5.
Does everybody agree with that? Okay, I agree. So 5 valence electrons for arsenic. How many does chloride have? Chlorine?
7.
Okay, does everybody agree with that? Okay, so 7, and there's 3 of them, right? And then 5. So how many valence electrons total did you guys get?
26.
26, I agree with that. Okay, so this was from the pre-lab. So for you, if you wrote it on paper or if you typed it, either way, you've already gotten all of this done. So for me, on my piece of paper, I'm going to take a picture with my phone, or maybe I did it on the computer, and that's where you're going to put it here in the worksheet. Okay, and let's make it a little smaller. We don't want these things to be gigantic, right? So there I've put my valence electrons. Can you type this? Yeah, but I prefer you to just cut and paste from the work you've already done rather than reproducing it, because then you have to deal with formatting and all of that. So hopefully you already have this part done though. Okay, so now the Lewis structure, right? So my Lewis structure, I'm going to start with, right, arsenic in the middle. Now, I don't know if you guys are taught to surround it by the atoms and then fill in the electrons. I'm going to say, okay, so I've got 5 electrons. I'm going to start filling those in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I can already tell here, I'm probably going to have chlorine, 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 right? So now I'm going to do Cl, and chlorine has 7, right? And then that's going to make a full octet. 1, 2. Okay, so this is what you should have. And then I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to put that in here as well. Okay, this is also from should have been from your pre-lab. And now for electron groups, you should have identified this. So here for electron groups, we want to reference our TRO textbook to kind of help us out with what this means, right? So we've got electron groups, bonding groups, and lone pairs that we have to identify for each one of these, right? And so electron groups, what you want to think about is around your central atom, how many positions, how many pairs of electrons do you have coming off of arsenic, right? I've got 1 pair, 2, 3, 4, right? I've got 4 electron groups. So electron groups is 4, right? Maybe I'll use blue like I just did. Doesn't matter if there's something bonding or not. If there is a pair of electrons that come off here, that is an electron group. Now we talk about bonding group, right? So how many of these 4 electron groups are bonded to another atom, right? So we've got these 2 are connecting to chlorine, these 2 are connecting to chlorine, and these 2 are connecting to chlorine, right? And so for bonding groups, right, I've got 3. And then the difference is going to be, of course, the lone pair. But then the lone pairs you can identify because they don't have an atom here, but there's the electrons. I like to also draw my electron cloud just so it's really clear to me that, oh, that's an electron cloud there, right? So then when I'm transferring this in my brain to 3-dimensional, I don't see this as arsenic with 3 bonds. I see this with arsenic with 4 groups, one of which is a lone pair, right? So lone pair, maybe I'll make this like purple. Okay. And so you can either type or cut and paste this onto your worksheet, but this information needs to be submitted as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in my electron groups. All right. So this dark gray area of each one of these is pretty much work you've already done, but it's necessary to have this foundation here before we start drawing these. So the next part of your instructions is saying to determine electron geometry, molecular geometry, good, central atom using Vesper theory, and then construct the 3D model. So before we construct it with our actual model kit, we need to draw it first, right? So here we've got a 3D drawing, then we're going to model it digitally, then we're going to build it, and we're going to Google it. So we're going to do all these things for every single one of these molecules. Okay. I'm going to put this right there. So let's draw this. So we have oh no, that's too thin. Okay, so we've got arsenic in the middle, right? And now we look at our reference guide to know what our electronic geometry is going to be for this. So on TRO here, you've got these thin lines that separate. These are each one of the possible electron geometries, right? So you only have linear, trigonal planar, so linear for 2, trigonal planar, tetrahedral, right? This entire group, trigonal bipyramidal, this entire group, and octahedral, this entire group. So those are your only starting points. So you really, in terms of like drawing this 3-dimensionally, you only have to determine, is it one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups, right? And so what we do is we look to see, okay, electron group, there's 4 of them. That's going to make a tetrahedral. Every single time you have 4 electron groups, you're going to start with a tetrahedral. Okay, so what I'm going to draw is arsenic. And a tetrahedral, we do one straight line, right? So that means it's planar to me. I'm going to do another straight line here. This one I'm going to do as a wedge. This means this bond is coming out of the page at me. 3-dimensional, right? And we'll work on thinking about these back and forth. And then this one is a wedge, which means it goes back behind. Okay, so what I did there again, arsenic in the middle. I always start with my top, my headpiece, I call it, you know, the top of my tetrahedral. Then another straight one, a wedge coming out, and then a dotted one going back. You can also do this dotted one if it's easier for you. You can do the dotted one this way. That's fine too. Okay, so now that we have the electronic geometry, right? This will, regardless of how many bonding pairs, this is what it's going to look like. Always, 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 always start with the electronic geometry. Then, right, so let's write that down. electronic geometry is what? Tetrahedral, right? Abbreviated because I ran out of space. Now we have to draw the molecular geometry, okay? So we know that we only have 3 bonded groups, right? So we'll draw those as Cl. So we're going to pick 3 of these. I'm going to pick these 3. And then on that last one, you can just draw your lone pair, right? Or you can just delete this, erase that, and do it as it is presented in Tro here with just nothing there. I like to show the lone pairs, especially for like a general chemistry level, right? So without the lone pair, that's how it would look like. I suggest you leave the lone pair in and do that little cloud so it's really clear that that's a lone pair. Okay, so after you draw this, and you don't have to use all the different colors. This can be black and white for right now. Later, we are going to want to color code things. Okay, so after that's drawn, I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. So I've got my 3-dimensional drawing. Let's make that smaller, right? Let's not take up a huge amount of space with these. Okay, so now I've got my drawing in there. How's everybody doing? Does everybody have this drawn? And you could be doing it on paper and pencil. You do not have to do it on the computer like I'm doing. You can if you'd like to. I have a pen tablet, so it's very easy for me. If you're doing this on paper, that's totally fine. You'll just need to take pictures and paste them in here later. Okay, so on your piece of paper on your computer, do you have this drawn? Where are we at, Ava? You're good? Okay. You guys feel free to unmute yourselves unless you're in like a noisy place or something.
I have a question real quick before we move on. So for the document, for things like valence electron and electron groups, is it okay if we just write out, like type out rather than put in a picture?
Yeah, that's fine for here. If you don't want to paste these back in here, you can't really do that for the Lewis structure. I do want you to actually draw that paper, pen, or, you know, on your word process, you know, your word. What I do not want is you to be like .as like do not, definitely do not do that. But on these, on the valence electrons and electron groups, if you want to type those, that's fine. And here, the electronic geometry, you can go ahead and type that as well. So this is tetrahedral for the electronic geometry. And what's the molecular geometry?
Trigonal pyramidal. Right.
So you'll want to be able to recognize these by looking at it, right? If I just look at this, what is this geometry? That's something that you just have to, I don't want to say memorize, but you have to have that knowledge, right? Like, just like if I show you an actual, you know, something that's cube in 3-dimensional space, and I say, what is this? Well, this is rectangular, but you know, if I show you this as a human, you can look at that and say, that's a rectangle. You should also be able to see this in 3 dimensions and say that's tetrahedral, and you should be able to see it drawn and say this is tetrahedral. Similarly, if I actually draw you, oh, where did my pen go? Similarly, you know, if I'm over here on a piece of paper and I draw a cube, you should be able to say that's a cube, you know? So chemical geometry, you just have to be able to recognize it. But to practice that, use this PDF. Use this PDF as your starting point, right? This is tetrahedral with one of the little arms popped off, right? Because it's a lone pair and it makes trigonal pyramidal, right? And here it makes a bent thing. And we're going to be looking at all these and why they're called that, right? Okay, so now to the part where I want you to do the 3D modeling. So I'm going to put this website in the chat. It says to use Models 360. I'm going to have you guys use MolView instead, because Models 360 doesn't have all of the models available. So go ahead and go to molview.org. The link is in the chat. It will start out with some random organic molecule. That's fine. So it will probably look something like this. That's fine. Just go ahead and do this trash can symbol, and you want to delete that. Okay, we don't need that. So this software is really powerful and really versatile, and it's really easy to use, but I'm going to walk you through it. Does everybody have this open? Great. Okay, so these are really common atoms. You can start here, or if you're using something that's not in this list, you have the entire periodic table at your disposal. So here where the 3 dots are, just go ahead and click on that. It should be right underneath the list of atoms along this like black border here. Okay, so I'm going to pick arsenic, AS. Okay, now I've just got it selected. So what you want to do is just click once right in the middle of your screen. Okay, so everybody should have AS right in the middle of their screen. Now you can add single bonds by just clicking and dragging. So I'm going to add chlorine. So I'm going to click on the chlorine saying I want to add a chlorine. What I can do is click here and drag. Click and drag. Click and drag. Everybody have that? If I wanted a double bond, I could just click again. Oh, whoop. I don't think that works with chlorine though, because chlorine can't have a double bond. If it's possible, you should be able to, but maybe you actually have to do here. So to do double and triple bonds, which you'll need later, we can go through that when you need it. You can use this side here, which has double, single, triple bonds. You can also do geometry. You don't need to for this, right? For this, all I want you to do is do a stick diagram like you would do a Lewis dot structure. You also don't have to worry about lone pairs here. So basically just imagine you're drawing a stick version of the Lewis dot structure. Then here you say 2D to 3D. Okay. Now at first glance, is that the correct geometry? I see 1 no, I see 2 no's. I think I saw a 3rd no. So it is. So the cool thing and the tricky thing here, how do you make the molecule bigger? So for me, I, with my mouse in my area here, I hold down Control and use my scroll mouse. On a Mac, you probably use Command. Just like you would zoom in on like a Word document or like a PDF. I don't know what it is on every computer, but it should be either hold down Control or Command and zoom. Okay. So yeah, so in this 3D area, you'll want to click and drag it around to take a look at it, because if you look at it the way it just appeared, it looks like it's trigonal planar, but it actually is trigonal pyramidal, right? The software is smart enough that if you input the right number of electrons, you will get probably the right structure. At your level for like general chemistry and for like really basic structures like we're going to draw, this should be correct. I think there's 1 or 2 that MolView cannot do, and we'll talk about that. That's why I also want you to Google it. Okay, so what you want to do is orient this in a way that kind of makes sense, right? You don't want to take a picture this way because I'll think that you think it's trigonal planar, right? So make sure you orient this in a way that makes sense. Okay, and then for me, I'm just going to use my snip tool on Word. So you can find that by coming down to your search bar and you just put snip. And then you can take like a really small screenshot, right? And it puts it into your copy paste kind of thing. If you're on a Mac, it is Command Shift and then the number 4, and that will give you the ability to take a screenshot. So everybody should be putting their digital model into their worksheet. Everybody have this? Give me some kind of confirmation or not that you're good. Okay, good. Because if you need a second, I want to slow down. Good. Great. Okay, so now we've done our drawing. We've done the digital model, which is kind of like we just drew it again, but on the computer and let the computer do the work. Now we're going to actually build it with our model kits. So go ahead and grab your model kits. I think a lot of you are going to have this version. Does anybody have ball and stick, or does anybody just have like toothpicks and candy? Why doesn't everybody hold up one piece so I know what everybody's working with? Okay, so we've got connectors, connectors, connectors. So we've got candy. Okay, so most people have this one. The people that have either candy or ball and stick, I'll be honest, it's probably going to be a little bit easier at first because these are a little weird, but once you get the hang of these aren't so bad. Okay, so to build this molecule, we have to do a tetrahedral geometry, right? And so first thing you want to do is just take two of these little angled ones and you slide them into each other, like, you know, the little Pac-Man part, just like that. So now without any of the atoms on it, you have a tetrahedral, right? So everybody go ahead and do that. If you've got the ball and stick, then you're just going to take ball and stick or candy and toothpicks, right? You're going to take something in the center and you're going to stick, you know, the 4 positions. Now your job is a little bit harder if you've got candy because you have to get those angles right. Okay, so right now we should have these little skeletons. And so you'll note on this kit, there's no central atom. This kind of lumpy node in the middle, that is your central carbon in our case, or well, sorry, arsenic in this case. In the future, when we do stereochemistry, it's going to be carbon. So this lumpy bit in the middle is your center atom. There's no ball. This is the ball, right? So that's kind of confusing to people at first. Okay, so we've got our tetrahedrals here. So now, since we've got chlorine, which are all 3 the same atom, you're going to want to pick three of your colored balls that are the same color and put them where they're supposed to go on your model, right? So in this case, since all 3 of them are the same, it doesn't matter. You can just put them on 3 of the sticks and I'll show you it's just going to work out, right? Okay, everybody got it? So for the ball and stick or for the candy, you can just take off one of these and you can not show the lone pair if you'd like, which is a nice option. I suggest always leaving the lone pair on for these exercises. One, it makes it easier to hold your molecule, but also, so it's really clear that you always start with the electronic geometry, always. This isn't not there, right? It doesn't actually look like this. There is something there. It's an electron cloud. And just because there's not a ball that we're going to be putting on there doesn't mean there's nothing there, right? Electrons are something. They're just not an atom. So I would just leave your little stick there for your electron cloud. Okay, so now this is the, well, not this one. This is the finished model, right? So we've got the trigonal pyramidal, right? So if you put this on the table, I'm going to pretend my hand is a table, it stands up just like a little pyramid would. Right? So that's your molecular geometry, even though electronically we still have a tetrahedral. So now you're probably gonna have to do all the pictures and everything, you know, either as you go along and put them into your document later. So you'll take a picture of this, you know, with your phone, maybe on the desk or something, and that's gonna go into your worksheet. Right? So here it says physical model photo. That's where this is going to go. Okay. Now, lastly, I'm asking you guys to also do a Google because there's an occasion that your digital model is not going to be perfect, or maybe you made it wrong. And I want you to be able to see what you did wrong. So you might want to actually do these in a different order. You might want to do your Google first and then your physical photo. So for ASCL3, you shouldn't have a problem. You should get the right answer. Let's see, where'd my Word document go, right? So I'm going to just Google ASCL3, oops, CL3, 3D. If you just Google that, you should, just on images, you should be able to find any of these images that are the correct one, right? So here it is. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this image and I'm going to put it in here. This is to help you in case you're not drawing it right for the mall view, the website. And make sure you make this nice and small. It's going to probably paste giant. Okay. So what's our molecular geometry? Okay, so that so far is your first one, right? So we've got the stuff that we did from the pre-lab to get you started, and then you build the drawing based on that. Do it in the 3D modeling. Make sure you get a picture off the internet to make sure it's correct, and then build it with your model kit. So I did, I think, at least 2 or 3 of them with the other class. Okay, so follow along with me. This one, I don't know which number this is, but we're going to do the ClO3 minus. This is important, right? So what's the first thing we need to do is count the valence electrons. So in your paper, you're going to, have how many this is plus how many this is times 3. How many valence electrons did you guys get?
26.
26. Okay, 7. So that's going to equal 25. Plus 1, right? Don't forget, if you've got a little negative up there, that counts as an extra electron, right? So we've got 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 plus the extra one. Okay, so you have 26 electrons there. So let's start out by saying, okay, so we've got Cl. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And then we know we have 3 oxygens, and oxygen have what, 6 each, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what oxygen looks like. So how can we put this together, right? So oxygen has an even number of electrons. So it can be kind of confusing of how do you put these in here? Oh, so we do have an extra electron. We can put that in here. That's always kind of a helpful thing to visualize that right away. So what we would do is probably put our oxygen here, right? But would it look like this? Is that right? No. Right? So we're going to make double bonds on these. And then let's not forget when we do a charged species, you want to make sure you indicate that, because if you don't indicate that this is a charged species, somebody that's coming in here and checking your work, they're going to be like, why does this person think there's 26 electrons for this? Right? By indicating the charged species, you're saying, I know it should be 25, but I've added an extra one because this is a charged species with an extra electron. So now what does this look like, right? So if we just drew this now as, I'm going to put this into my document as you guys should be doing so you can see how this is looking along. Okay, so this is number 5. So valence electrons, we did that bit. Lewis structure. And luckily on homework and things like this, you can always double check your work online, right? You shouldn't be using the internet to formulate your response, but you can construct this and then check. And if you didn't get the right structure, you can look and be like, well, why didn't I get the right structure? Okay, so now electron groups. So to help us know what the geometry is here, we do the same thing as we did before. Now we need to determine how many bonding pairs, non-bonding pairs, and your lone pairs, right? So let's look at our cheat sheet again. Okay, so electron groups. What? There we go. Okay, so how many electron groups do we have? You can go ahead and put it in the chat or just say something in your mic. Got one group here, 2, 3, 4, right? Now it doesn't matter that they're double bonded. When it says electron group, it's basically saying how many arms are coming off your central atom. Okay, so now what else do we need? Bonding groups. Okay, so how many bonding groups are there?
3.
Great. 1, 2, 3, right? And what's this one? This is a lone pair. On this structure in particular, it's important to draw these, right? Because again, it might be the difference between identifying it as trigonal planar and trigonal pyramidal. They're very different molecules. Okay, so then lone pair, 1, right? It's a nice bubble there. I should do that in black. It makes it look like it's part of it. Okay, so you're either going to type or write this into your worksheet. Okay, so now let's draw it. Okay, so we've got chlorine in the middle. And what is our electronic geometry?
Trigonal pyramidal.
Now that's the molecular geometry. What's our electronic geometry? Remember, always the starting point is one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tetrahedral.
Tetrahedral. Good, perfect. So we want to first start by drawing a tetrahedral, right? No atoms or anything. We just want a tetrahedral. Now I'm not drawing proper bonds. I'm not drawing anything. All I'm doing is drawing the electronic geometry. Okay, tetrahedral. Now we can take this, instead of building on this like I did the last one, I'm going to draw it over here so we can see both of them differently. I'm just going to draw the exact same thing. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put our atoms in so we can think about the molecular geometry, right? I'm going to put my oxygens in there. I'm going to also draw the bonds properly now. Right? Okay, so now let's do the 3D model. This one can be kind of tricky in 3D model also because of that extra charge. So let's go ahead and trash everything. And we're going to start with Cl in the middle. And then I'm going to add an oxygen, and an oxygen. This is how you add those charged species. So you've got a plus and a minus, right? So we're going to add a minus. All you do is just select on that extra electron and just add an extra electron. Kind of like we just did on the paper, right? We added that red dot. You just click on the E. You say, I added an electron. You can add another electron and another one, another one, another. That doesn't make any sense, but okay, so we've got one extra electron. The other thing that's tricky about MolView is you do want to draw the double bonds here. Okay. You know, you might want to Google it, because if you try to make it in MolView the way that you see it in the internet, for some reason, I don't know, this one, I've never used MolView before this class, so I couldn't tell you like what's the best way to go about this. But if we Google ClO3 minus 3D structure, and we look at Which one shows? I guess you'll have to use this one because it doesn't show the double bonds or anything, but you can still use this one, right? Cl3 minus. Okay. Nice Google Images. And then you're going to build that again on your models that you're building by hand. You don't need to worry about the double bonds or anything. I really just want to see that you're drawing the geometry, because this is a precursor to the next part of the lab that we're doing, where we need to be able to like orient it in 3-dimensional space. So this is just practicing that. So always start with your electronic geometry, right? Start with your electronic geometry and then add your atoms to make your molecular geometry. And then that's what you take a picture of. And then you'll want to indicate those here, right? Tetrahedral. And then trigonal pyramidal. Whoops, don't need an extra one of those. Okay, so this all makes sense, right? Of how you use this little worksheet. So I'm going to give you guys about 30 minutes or so to work on the rest of these. Get as far as you can. I'm just looking at like a general textbook of chemistry online. So these are just more things that you have to be aware of. We can look at the example of BeCl3 and why that is. So let me pull open my document here. So if we tried to work it out, oh, do we want to save that? No. Okay, so we have BeCl2. Okay, so if we look at the valence electrons and look at my periodic table, oh, where'd you go? Oh, no. Okay, so how many electrons do we have here? We've got 2. How many electrons do we have? Oh, hello. 2, 7. So 14, 15, so 16 total, right? So we've got Be. So we only have 2 electrons, right? It can't make more bonds. So if it only has these 2, it's not, if it's the center atom, it's not possible for it to have a full octet because it only has 2 electrons that you start with. So if you tried to add more, you'd be saying there's an electron there it can make bonds with, right? So these exceptions, it's kind of like you'll realize they're exceptions as you start drawing them out, and you should recognize them from just the rules that you've been learning in chemistry. So now if we add the Cl, right, which each have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then you would go from here with the, you know, how many electron pairs, or let's see, what's our checklist we went through? We didn't do, we did electron groups, I think we called it. I'm trying to be consistent, right? So 2, and then bonding 2, right? So two groups off of the central atom, 2 groups that are bonding. So if you look at your cheat sheet, what does that mean the electronic and the molecular geometry are? Right, so 2 electronic groups and then 2 bonding groups. Right. I don't think any of my classes have like finished this. This is just going to be like, okay, I've shown you how to do it. We did the whole like tutorial of like, what are the steps, right? So for the rest of the problems that you're going to do is like, you know, your homework and submitting this for next week, just follow these steps, do the valence electrons, draw the Lewis structure. If you need to, and this is totally fine, after you draw your Lewis structure, Google it, make sure that you have the right structure. Because if you start with this wrong, then things are going to go awry, right? So double check your work, identify the electron groups and the bonding groups, and then use this table, right? So just walk through those steps and you guys should be fine. So you'll do that for the rest of those. So let's move on so we can go over the other stuff that we need to do visibly in class today. So part B. So part A is all about like building the models and being able to see the drawings and translate them to this, right? That's an important skill. Now we're going to take it one step further and talk about stereochemistry and how important it is the orientation of things. So let me pull open my PowerPoint. So molecules, especially, let's say, like the tetrahedral one that we're all familiar with, it's important the orientation. So if all of these are exactly the same, if you've got, hydrogen, 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 they're all the same, then it doesn't matter how you orient it, right? It's perfectly symmetric. But if all 4 of these are different, it will matter, because then your molecule has like a right and left hand symmetry to it. Let me find my other bond here. And so that's what we're going to explore in this part. And they're called chiral molecules. They're isomers. And so there's some vocabulary you're going to need to learn for this section. And I'm going to show you this full chart. You're not going to have to know everything on this chart, but I want to show you this full flow chart because I think it shows really well all the things you're eventually going to be responsible for knowing throughout both general chemistry and organic chemistry. And so understanding the terminology now and getting these vocabulary down really solid this early on is really important. If you don't know what the word chiral means, or achiral or stereoisomer, it's going to be really hard to like determine what a rotamer is, because first you have to determine, well, is it chiral or not? Then you have to determine, is it a diastereomer or enantiomer? So you have to know all these things. Today, we're pretty much only going to focus on the stereoisomer, right? And what the word chiral really means. We are going to a little bit talk about cis and trans, but that's like towards the end. So imagine now we have a mirror here, right? So this is a mirror and I've just got my hand right up to a mirror, right? It's going to look like the same exact thing mirrored, but if I was in real life, it's not the same, right? It's like this is the right and this is the left. Like if I put them in the same orientation, I can't stack them on top of each other. And molecules are the same exact way. And that center that you can rotate around is called the chiral center. And for us, it's going to be the carbon, right? So the chiral carbon. In the directions of your lab manual, so in part B, it asks you to put an asterisk by your chiral carbon, right? So that's the center that we're going to be rotating around. So you can just like write a C and then a little star on it. So let's take a look at this model. So we're going to build this together. So I want you guys, we're going to be using our left and right hands pretty extensively. So before we get started, on your piece of paper, let's draw ourselves a reference. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to redraw this figure 1 because we're going to build this in real space, but we need to color code it so we all know we're looking at the same thing. So you guys should all have what pink and purple and black and white, right? I'm going to use yellow for white because obviously I can't put white. Right? Everybody has these colors. If you have candy, you're going to have to just try to get the closest you can. So let me get my purple. You don't have blue and you don't have green. So I have red, not pink. So red is pink on mine. Okay. So I've got pink, purple, black, and white. Everybody has those? And you're just going to be using your tetrahedral for this part. So you're just going to use your black, the 2 connectors. We're going to be building a tetrahedral, right? You should recognize this as a tetrahedral. Okay. So we're going to start with our tetrahedral in the electronic geometry. So everyone should have their just electronic geometry with no balls, no atoms attached. So what we're going to do, and so how I'm going to refer to this, if it was sitting on a table, I'm going to use my right hand as the table. Okay, so everyone needs to use their right hand. You're going to put your molecule on your right hand. This is what I'm going to refer to as the top. It's not always going to be oriented this way, right? Sometimes they're oriented this way, but for us to build it, I'm going to say this is the top, right? And then there should be a stick pointing straight at the camera. That's away from you, right? Away from you. Okay, so the way this picture is, figure 1, I'm going to take a little screenshot. I'm going to build it over here, nice and big. Okay, so we're going to color code these so we can do the stereochemistry here, right? So for BR, so bromine, let's make it purple. Okay, so on your piece of paper, you either need to write purple, or if you have some kind of colored marker, pencils, crayons, anything, if you don't, just maybe try to write the word purple. It'll be really good for your visualization if you can actually color code it. If you can do this in a paint document on the computer, that would also be totally fine the way I'm doing it right now. Okay, so we're gonna have purple right on the top. We're gonna say hydrogen is white. Hydrogen's pretty traditionally white. I'm gonna use yellow so you can see it. So this is white. Okay, Cl, let's see, what do we have left? We have pink and black. Cl, let's do black. Okay, black chlorine. And iodine, we're gonna do pink. Okay, so we've color coded our instructions here, and you've drawn this out and you've color coded it. Now with your molecule in your right hand, we're going to start building this, right? So I'm going to, with my electronic geometry, okay, I've got purple on top. So everybody put purple on top. And if you can, hold it up so I can see. And then we're going to take next white, right? Hydrogen is going to be away from you. So purple on top and hydrogen pointed at me, away from you, pointed at the camera. Okay. Now, after that, this is the important bit. Your chlorine goes on the left, right? So look at the picture in front of you. I don't know if mine is going to be inverted or not for you. Black is on the left and pink is on the right. This is important, right? Because if we do, we're going to see if we do it the other way, it's an isomer. Okay. So now what I have built is purple on top. White is pointed away from me. White is pointed towards the camera. And from my vantage point, I have chlorine is on my left and pink, iodine, pink is on my right. So if I take my left hand, I can touch black. So once you guys have it built, I want you to do exactly what I'm doing in the camera is hold it up in your hand, point white at me, and with your left hand, touch black. Perfect, perfect. Yep, so white towards me, there you go. Now, if you're touching the wrong color, you need to reverse them. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, step 1 down. So later, what you're going to do, so let's go back to our worksheet here. So I'm going to, the drawing that you made with your color codes, right? And your color codes should match. So if you're using candy, you want to identify your candy colors. Okay, you need to put that in your worksheet. This is where your photo will go of the one that you just built. So the one that we were just holding in our hand. Oh my gosh, where is this? When we're just holding your hand, you're going to be putting that picture in here. You can insert that in later. Okay. Now it wants you to draw the mirror image. Okay. So now if we were, let's see, we have purple up and white away, right? So all we have to do for this part is be able to draw the mirror image here. So I'm just going to move this over on my paper a little bit. Okay. So now we imagine there's a mirror. Whoop, that's not use pink. Okay, pretend there's a mirror. And you're actually going to hold this up to a mirror and take a picture, right? So what would this look like as the mirror image? Okay, so I'm going to draw a stick. I'm going to have one bond going backwards, and then I've got two kind of coming out this way. That means I would be close to the mirror here, CL would be over here, H, BR, right? And what I'd like you to do in this space provided, if you can, put both of them so you can see them right next to each other. It will be helpful. So put them both right next to each other like I've done here. So it's actually like I've given you like a little mirror. So now you're gonna, this is what you'll do later. You're gonna take your molecule, right? And you're gonna, the way it is oriented right there, you're gonna go hold it up to a mirror. Maybe put it like on your bathroom counter and take a picture, and it should look exactly like this. And you're gonna put that picture in here, and you're gonna kind of explore that, and you're gonna examine it. And then you're gonna answer these questions, right? Now, if you have enough, you can build two of these, and I'll show you with my set. I don't think, oh shoot. I don't think, do you guys have enough to build two? No, yeah, I didn't think so. So I'll build two and you can look at this, but later, you know, you have to like talk about this stuff. It is much easier if you have two, but. Okay, so I've built my mirror image. Okay, so it looks exactly like I have it on my paper there, right? I've got pinks, I've got white, purple are both up, black are both out. So these are stereoisomers. These are enantiomers. These are not the same molecule, correct? Are these superimposable? No. Are these mirror images? Yeah. Right? So imagine there's a mirror right in the middle, just like I have on my screen right now, right? This is the same exact mirror image. If I try to superimpose these, right? So if I try to line them up perfectly, oh, look at that, black and purple match, but the other two don't. Oh, well, let me fix that. White and purple match. Oh, the other two don't. No matter what I do, I will not be able to stack these. They are not superimposable, right? So let's say if I've got them in this direction, right? Reds will stack, the other two won't. Well, what if I turn it this way? Black stack, the other two don't. No matter what you do, you will not be able to put these on top of each other. Same composition, mirror images. One is a right hand and one is a left hand. Okay, so that's where you're going to talk about those things. So this part here on your worksheet, it says drawing A, B, C, D, E. Those are referring to this section here in your instructions. So we're going to do this part together as well. They're not labeled in your lab manual, but it's A, B, C, D, E, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to redraw these and we're going to color code them just like we did our model that we actually built. Okay, I'm going to delete my mirror image because we don't need that anymore. I'm going to move this one a little bit. Okay, so the first one we have, so what we're going to do on your paper, I want you to draw these, and then we're going to try to see if our model fits this. Let's see, which one do I have here? Yep, that's my enantiomer. The first one we have, and the first one you're going to draw on your own paper, and then we're going to color code it. A, oh, it's a little too thick now, isn't it? Okay, so A, I've got a stick this way, and then a wedge, and then a wedge, and then a dot. Okay, so we've got CL is black. Okay, so what we're gonna arrange is black on top. Now don't build this, you're just drawing this. Purple. So we got CL, BR, H, and I. White and pink. So this is why it's important to color code these. So with A, what the question is asking you is your model you have in your hand. Is A this model, or is A a mirror image? So without us doing the exercise, what do you think? Is A the same molecule, or is it an isomer? So you shouldn't necessarily be able to tell right away, right? If any of you were answering right away, you're either wrong or it's just a guess 50-50, because you really have to like have the model and figure it out. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to try to orient our model the way A is, and we're going to say if it can or cannot. So this is how I want you to do it. So we're going to start with a single reference point. I like to use the top one, right? So we're going to start with a reference point. So you're going to hold your reference point with black up. Okay, black is up. Second reference point I like to pick is away, right? So we've got up is black and away is red. So pink should be pointing at me. So you should be holding your molecule in your right hand with black up and pink away. Okay. Black up, pink away. Now, if you've got black up, pink away, you should take your left hand and touch the left atom. Is that, according to A, purple? If you built the correct model, you should be saying yes. You should be holding your model in your right hand. Pink should be pointed away, black up, and on your left-hand side should be bromine, should be purple. So if we were able to configure this perfectly, is this the same molecule or is this an isomer?
The same molecule.
Yes. Okay, so in your worksheet here, so don't forget to answer these questions. So in your worksheet here, I'm going to put the little drawing that we did. I'm going to make it small because I don't need it to be all giganto. Right? You're going to tell me if it's the same molecule or if it's an isomer. Right? Okay, so let's do the next one. Okay, so the next one is B. For B, so this one's a little bit different, right? So this one's a little bit harder, not necessarily. Let's actually not do B next. I'm gonna do B after this next example. So let's do A, B. Let's do C, because this one's oriented in the exact same way, just different atoms. So we've got one that's up, right? I is up. We've got a wedge. That should be hydrogen. We've got another wedge. That is CL, and then ... BR. So go ahead and draw these, and then you need to color code them based on what we called these color coding. Right, so I said CL is black, hydrogen is always white, I said BR is purple, and I is pink. Okay, everybody have that drawn? It's the same in your lab manual. We're just drawing it so we can color code it and put it into our worksheet. And if you just write pink, purple, that's fine too. Now, just like we did before, pick a point of reference. I'm going to start with the top. I like to start with the top. The top is pink. So I should be holding my molecule in my right hand with pink up. Then the next thing is second point of reference is going to be BR. I'm going to point BR away, right? Oh, so this is away, right? If it's away, it's at you, right? So you should be pointing your purple at me, not towards you. So BR is away and iodine is up. So now that we've got our 2 points of reference, we're going to take our left finger and we're going to touch the left atom. Is that hydrogen? Is that white? Is our model the same molecule as C? Okay, so do you see how this works now? It looks like the same molecule, but until you actually try to build it, you can't really tell if it's an isomer or if it's the same molecule. So let's put that in C. And here we're going to say what? Isomer. So let's do one more, and then I'm going to let you do a couple by yourself to see how you do. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. So this one can look tricky because it's oriented a little bit different, but you approach it the same way. So for B, so figure B, right? So B here has straight line, wedge down here, dotted down here. This is fine. We're going to be able to orient this as well. Okay, and what do I have? I've got I, B, R, H, C, L. Okay, let's color code it. I have chosen white for hydrogen, as always, black for Cl, purple for Br, pink for I. Okay, let me know if you need another second. So now our point of reference isn't just, you know, the top of a tetrahedral, right? We're just gonna rotate it a little bit. That's fine, right? You can rotate these things however you want. This drawing has 2 flat, 1 forward, 1 back. So now when you hold your molecule, you won't be able to hold it like this, right? Because it now has 2 legs and 2 arms and no head, I guess. So the way you're going to hold this, I guess, is we're going to hold it by the center here. Hopefully all of the atoms stay on. I know some people's fall off. Okay, so let's use the top 2 as our point of reference, right? So first thing we want to do is top left is pink and top right is purple. Okay, so these are flat to me. Okay, so there's not one towards me and one away. These 2 on the top are flat. Pink on the left and purple on the right. So in my right hand, I can touch pink with my left hand. Now we ask ourselves, is this the same molecule, right? So now the bottom are the ones we're asking about. Is towards me black and is away white? Okay, so I see a lot of heads shaking no. So what does that mean? Okay, we're going to take our little picture here. We're going to put it in here. Whoops. And you're going to tell me whether this was the same or the isomer. Okay, so go ahead and do D and E. I'll give you guys just like 10 minutes and then we're going to move on. Maybe not even 10 minutes. I don't think you need 10 minutes. Or I'm going to give you like, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes because all you have to do is look at D and E, right, which are on your worksheet. Look at D and E, draw them, color code them, and then try to see if your molecule is that or is not that. Okay, so you have a triangle piece that I do not have. So go ahead and connect your two. There you go. Yay. Okay, yeah. So use your two triangle pieces to form this. Just keep in mind, I'm going to ask you, can I rotate this? You might be able to, but you're not supposed to be able to, right? That we're going to pretend this is a double bond, which are nice and rigid and don't rotate. So yeah, everyone go ahead and take your two triangles and build this. You can leave the atoms off for right now if you want. Now, I don't think you'll be able to make two, or can you make two? Okay, so you can only make one. I have both of them. So now we're gonna learn, I guess, about the cis and the trans. So cis and trans relates to where these positions are, the atoms, on this double bond structure, right? So if, I'm gonna refer to the red ones, right, not the hydrogens. If our atoms, let's say chloride in the drawing here in our instructions, if these two are on the same side, this is called the cis conformation, or the cis isomer, right? They're sisters. They're on the same side. They're together. So our sisters, our cis structure has these on the same side. If they're not on the same side, they're not sisters. They're not cis. It's trans, right? So these are isomers. Just like we just spent so much time talking about the isomers here, how we have a right and a left hand. These are similar, just now it's cis and trans rather than right and left-handed, right? So are these mirror images? No. Are these superimposable? No. What if I flip it this way? Okay, let me. If I have two cis, are these mirror images? Are they superimposable? Are they isomers? Oh, good job. I thought I was going to trick you. Yeah, of course they're going to, of course they're going to be, they're the exact same molecule, right? Same molecule. These are not isomers. The isomer is not going to be superimposable. Whoops, that's not how you build that. Okay, so what I want you to do for your worksheet is draw these two, right? So I'm not gonna show you that. You should be drawing them right now. Maybe I'll just pull open I'm like, I'm not gonna do it for you, and I'm gonna do it for you. Okay, so first thing you're gonna do is draw these. Okay, so I'm gonna use C. Now in this case, you don't have to color code it if you don't want to. I like to, because I think it just makes it really easy to see. I'm not going to use white because then you won't be able to see it. Okay, so which one did I draw? Did I draw the cis or the trans?
Cis.
Okay, so you're going to draw both of those and put them in your worksheet. And I also want you to use the 3D models for them.
How should we do that? Because we only have like multiples of white. They're like, we only have one of each other color, like only one.
Oh, okay. Then you can just leave it a nub, right? So pretend the little nubs are hydrogens rather than electron clouds. Just kind of use your imagination, right? So those are tiny little hydrogens, and pretend that, the whatever, you can use white, you can use whatever you want, as long as you've got two different things, right? So just like Ava has right there. Yeah. So just keep in mind, and that's fine to do, Ava, to visualize it, but in reality, this can't rotate. If you were really building this, you would, like mine, I can't rotate mine, right? I'd have to take this off. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you guys to think that this rotates around, because there are some molecules like you are holding right now that do rotate, right? So yeah, as long as you keep that straight. So yeah, so just leave one as like a little nub, and that'll be hydrogen, and the others will be your atoms. So you'll have to take pictures of those as well. And then, so your 3D model, so let's go into mol view. So this one you'll need to do, so I selected carbon. I'm going to do a carbon, and then you can click and drag, that's fine. But then what you also have to do is turn this into a double bond, right? Otherwise this isn't going to be the right structure. So I'm going to make this one my cis. Okay, and then 2D to 3D. So all I did was click and drag to make those. And then the double and triple, or the double and single bonds, you need to plan accordingly in these options here. Okay, so then there's my molecule. So this will help also if you need to try to visualize this, but you don't have your model, right? Because you guys can't create two models. You can create one in here, right? So you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I've got one up on the computer and I've got one here. So you can, to help yourself, you can have that one on the computer and pretend you're rotating it with your hand when really you're doing it in the computer, and you've got one here in your hand. So now you've got two models, right? So I'm holding mine up to my computer where I see this. And I'm like, okay, so that's a mirror image. And then I'm like this, I'm like, oh, that's a mirror. Oh no, this is the same. I just modeled this. This is the same one, right? Now, if I want to change this into trans, right? Okay. Now I can like have this here and I can try to like hold it up as if it was in a mirror. Oh, kind of hard to rotate these a little bit, but you get the idea, right? Pretend maybe I've got it held up to a mirror like that. Okay, so you'll want to put those pictures in your report. And then you need to answer these questions. How are they different from each other? These are things that you can do, you know, after class or during class, whatever. Are they superimposable? And then I want to go over the polarity stuff, because I feel like now that we had that chat, you guys can answer these articulately, or you can articulate these. Okay, so polarity questions. Have you guys learned about polarity in your lecture already, right? Okay, good. So this part I'm going to leave mostly as an exercise for you guys, because I want you to do the work of looking it up in your textbook and things like that. But you need to look up, if you don't have the intuition of, is carbon chloride, so is this bond right here covalent or polar, you need to look up the values of the electronegativity to determine that if you don't already know, right? So is that polar or non-polar?
Polar.
Okay, we got one answer for polar. Anybody else? Not sure? You can look it up. You can look it up, okay? So you're gonna want to draw these with vector dipoles. Do you know what that means? Okay, so you're gonna wanna draw, so a vector dipole, right? So you've got, these are the vector dipoles, right? That's what it would look like. This means this side is slightly positive and this side is slightly negative, right? So it means positive charge, negative charge. This is kind of the direction the polarity points. So I want you to start working on this in lab now for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we can come back around and work on it. You don't have to worry about this in lab. You can look this up afterwards, because if you don't know the values and you're not sure if this is, you know, if this is a dipole or not, then you need to look up the numbers. And then what you're going to do as an exercise afterwards is you're going to talk about, you know, does your assumption match the numbers and so on. So go ahead and start drawing these and draw your polarities and think about that stuff. I'll give you like, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to think about this stuff. And then we're going to talk about the last part of this before we go today. I want you to add this on there too. So underneath where you've done the drawings, I said, how are the cis and the trans different from each other? Oh, shoot. Sorry. I want you to put this here. Are the cis trans superimposable with each other? Does this make them chiral or non-chiral? Right? Just trying to really emphasize the vocabulary that you're supposed to be learning here.
For the net dipole lookup in a reference, what does it mean by that?
So you want to look up, so the net dipole means what's the dipole moment of the entire molecule. So let me actually see what reference would come up if I Googled this. So one website that comes up, I'll just put this up here, I guess, so you guys can see it. This is just randomly, I Googled net dipole of, and then this is the molecular formula. It's probably like in your textbook also. There's lots of references that are going to have this information out there. This is just some, I don't know, some high school or college or something. And I just scrolled down to see, them talking about it. And these are the values you can find in references. So if you looked up these on, let's see, something that's a little bit more of a proper, oh gosh, what are some chemistry databases? Here we go. I mean, the tricky thing here, so this would be like a proper way to look it up, where you go to like a chemistry database, NIST. This is kind of overwhelming, I think, for your level, because you have to know what all of these words mean: dichloryl, trans, 1, 2. I'll just pull open this because this website here has got the pictures of them as well. So for the cis, and this, I guess, is also the answer with the dipole moments, right? So with the cis 1, 2, it has a dipole moment, right? You've got one arrow that's pointing out this way, another arrow that's pointing out this way, large arrows pointing. And then, so those are for your bonds, right? So you do your vectors for the bonds, and then there's one vector for the entire molecule. So does this molecule have a molecular dipole moment, a net dipole moment, right? Yeah. And that has a mathematical value, right? So 1.89. This one here, so we've got one dipole for this bond here and one dipole for this bond here. What do you know from remembering when you learn this stuff in your general chemistry lecture? If you've got dipole moments, but they perfectly are opposite of each other, what happens?
They cancel out.
They cancel out. Yeah. So even though the bonds are polar, right? Carbon chloride, even though your bonds are polar and you're going to be able to draw these larger vector arrows, right? And then of course we've got smaller ones here. The carbon hydrogen one, it exists, but it's pretty small. This one, all of these cancel out perfectly. So is there a net molecular dipole here? No, right? And the value, if you look this up on, the National Institute of Science, or, this document we found online, the value here is 0 and the value here is 1.89. So how are you guys doing on this part? You have all this done with the cis trans stuff, and you added this bit about the chirality? Let's make sure we got everything going on here. Okay, let's jump to part C because B3 in the directions because I think this part's pretty tricky as well. Whatever you guys haven't finished working on, you can either keep working on in the last couple minutes of class or as, you know, the homework for the lab. But I want to make sure we address this because this can be kind of confusing. So you guys have learned about isomers and how you have the same chemical structure, but you can have many different drawings for it. So in this case, you're going to be drawing multiple of these structures. So draw 3 different Lewis structures for each one of these. So it does give you a hint. Your structures will have a carbon-carbon double bond. So I think that we should draw at least one of these together to see how your like drawing skills are. And then I can let you guys work on the other ones. Where is my... Have you guys had practice drawing molecules like this? Like where you're given the a chemical equation and you have to draw the molecule? Yeah, okay. When I look at this, this looks very organic chemistry, but maybe you've already learned it, so that's good. Okay, so we have C4H8O. So I want you guys to write that down on your papers. And let's come up with a structure for this. Now what I want you to do with this, and maybe I'll redraw it. I want you to now draw the mirror image. Okay, so now draw the mirror image on your paper and you're going to paste it down here in your worksheet. And then you want to tell me, are they superimposable, right? So you might want to draw this in our 3D space so you can actually visualize this because your model kits, you don't have enough models to draw this. So I would say for this assignment, really focus a lot on these first. I don't want you guys to stress too much about this end bit because it's pretty complex for general chemistry. This is very like organic chemistry heavy. So I really want you guys to spend most of your energy and time on these first bits up here. So all of these, I want you to be able to draw these really well and do the geometry. And then the stereoisomers, I want you to be able to answer these questions really well. This is in the tran, and then like the order of where you should stress should be decreasing. So this stuff is pretty hard, so just do the best you can and, you know, do the best you can. So before we run out of time, do you guys have any questions in the entire document? I know we went through everything, but I know you guys didn't have enough time to work on everything. So are there any questions you kind of have lingering that you want to talk about?
Can you explain the chiral carbon thing again?
Yeah, so let's see, which part is that? So I think on this part here, it wants you to identify the chiral carbon, right? So did you guys learn about chirality in the lecture already? A little bit. Oh, good. I still have it built. Good, good, good. Okay, so remember this molecule that we built, right? And we were showing the mirror image, and it did have a mirror image, right? And those were isomers. Could we stack them? Oh, yay, you have them both still. Okay. So here I built both of them, right? And pretend there's a mirror right in the middle here, right? I'm putting this up to a mirror and I've got this molecule here. And I'm asking you, are these mirror images? Are these isomers mirror images? And you would say yes. And then I say, are they superimposable? Okay? Chiral stereo isomers. Does that make sense? This stuff it gets really complicated. Honestly, in organic chemistry, this was like all the stuff I was the worst at, to be very honest. And because I was terrible at it and because it was really complicated, I didn't spend a lot of time on it. And it was really hard for me in organic chemistry. So the faster you can really wrap your head around these vocabulary terms, chiral, in your head, you should practice this so much that when you say the word chiral, you're envisioning like a mirror and then putting it over top and it's not transposing, right? Or it's not superimposable. So just work on that vocabulary, really emphasizing that in your brain. Just kind of, you know, the process of learning. I don't know if I have any good like suggestions on how to go about that because this was not my strong suit. I'm a physical chemist. I'm good at math. I'm good at math and I'm good at you know, math. So so my best suggestion is just practice and use your model kits. I don't think I used my model kits enough when I was in organic chemistry. This is not my area of expertise. This is going down a deep hole that I'm just not sure about. But I'm gonna look into this and we can talk about it more if you want. Okay. Okay, we're a little over, so I'll let you guys go. And I am going to be posting a recording if you want to review anything I said today, because some of the other classes need to review it again because we didn't get through the whole thing with the other classes. So that'll be coming later today if you want to look out for that. And if you need any other questions, I'll be around for office hours. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.